There we go. Hey, everybody. Hopefully, oh wait, I actually probably present to everyone. That looks better. Hey, everybody. It's Chris and Donna again, clearly fumbling with our controls. Oded isn't here this week, and so we are struggling without him. We miss you, Oded. Come
yes,
back.
we really do.
Or, have fun with your family, I guess. That's
yeah. He's on paternity leave, so he has a very good reason. Unfortunately, we also really need him. You might have noticed that we tweeted out that we were going to talk about durable functions, and then we realized we'd already talked about durable functions, and then we were like, okay, oh, that's right, we're gonna do VS on a Mac. And Oded, he'll ping us a week ahead of time and be like, hey, you guys, you got your stuff ready. He PMs the PMs.
Yeah.
So, however,
you want us to connect next time?
Yeah, we do. So, but we have a fantastic demo. It was a little stressful for us to pull it together, and so big thanks to Fabio, who helped me with my demo last night as I was dealing with things like different path conventions on a Mac and making sure I had the right version of the .NET CLI installed and all of that. All of the issues I had nothing to do with the CLI, everything to do with config. But I am going to demo for you, for the first time publicly seen, the Functions CLI running on a Mac. And we're really excited about this. So I have a few slides. Let me share those. And is it showing my screen? Do I need to share with everyone? Cool. There we go. All right. So we have a few updates for you. First off, very soon, I can't tell you when because it's not my product and this is just how it goes, but very soon you will have VS Update 3, the final version, not the preview version. A lot of folks have wondered why we are depending on a preview version. That's because we have a dependency on some .NET Core tooling that's only in Update 3, but that when that ships, the Azure Functions tooling will automatically be included in the Azure workload. So there's not a separate v6 to install. However, it is still shipped as a v6 internally. So this means that we can make updates out of band. So basically all this pain that we've had with installing preview versions will go away. And you can then you'll automatically be updated to the latest version since that setting is on by default. The other thing that we're going to do is basically make the tooling a lot more useful. So some people have noticed that we don't have binding redirects in place. And the reason for that is that if you are using, your functions code runs in the same process as us. So we have dependencies on, say, particular versions of Newtonsoft JSON, which means that you also have to have that same version. If you try to use a later version, then you're going to get errors at runtime. So the way we're going to solve this, in the future, we're going to have a language worker that runs out of process, and then we'll have binding redirects. But in the meantime, we're going to make it easier for you to do the right thing. So we're going to have max version, for our dependencies like web jobs and Newtonsoft JSON, which means that basically it's going to be a lot easier for you to make sure that your configuration is correct. The other thing that we've done is that we've really improved the way we're generating function JSON. We've had a lot of bugs in input and output bindings, as you folks have noticed, and you've filed bugs. Thank you very much. So an interesting thing is that the functions runtime uses web jobs, which actually derives all of its behavior from attributes in the source. So what we were doing before was a little bit weird. We were taking attributes in your source, generating function JSON, and then later on, the functions runtime would generate new attributes with a new class with that same metadata that was in function JSON. And that was just because it was the most expedient way to get this new programming model out the door. But now, with some great new changes in the functions runtime, if you have those attributes there and you have a special property in function JSON that I'll talk about in a second, then it will use attributes for input and output bindings. Triggers still do need to be specified there because that's how we scale out, and that's how the portal knows that you have a function. But this has made everything a lot smoother, and we have a lot more parity with web jobs. So there are two new properties in function JSON that control this behavior. If the configure, and this is the Microsoft.net.sdk.functions that generates function.json automatically adds these properties. So the first is configuration source, which can be either attributes or config. If it's attributes, then it will just ignore any input and output bindings that you have. And we also have a property generated by, which is used by the portal to make the integrate tab read only. So what this means is that if you use our tooling, you can't edit function.json because function.json is basically only used by the scale controller to scale out, and the function's runtime will look at attributes. But if you really do need to change your metadata at runtime, what you can do is use the old precompiled model and write out all of the config yourself, including input and output bindings. And then as configuration source, you would put config. So we do still have the flexibility to do everything the old way, if that's what you're interested in. So stay tuned for this. We'll have an update. We'll have some blog posts. It's really exciting. It's going to be great. Now, we also have, this is our fantastic demo. We have Functions Core Tools on a Mac. So we just barely got this to a point where we can demo it. We've been working very hard. Actually, I should say, we have not been working hard at all on this. Yeah. We've been looking at demos that are done by Fabio, also known as Code Sapien, who stayed at work until 11:30 last night to help me with my demo and getting these bits working on my machine. So we've ported the WebJobs SDK to .NET Core 2.0. In fact, you can try it now. It's on NuGet. It's the latest beta that's available, the 3.0 beta 1. The script runtime is mostly done. There's just some work around HTTP, and the Functions CLI is still in progress. I have a prototype that I'm going to show you. It's missing a few things, but the change to the CLI is actually pretty minimal. We just need to run it on Kestrel instead of the ASP.NET web host. And we expect that we'll have a public preview within the next couple weeks, and you can follow the status on GitHub. And of course, this is basically all the work of Fabio, also known as Code Sapien. So if you aren't following him already, please follow him. He posted a great screenshot last night of this work that we've been doing. So without further ado, I'm going to demo for you, for the first time, functions running on a Mac and the Functions CLI. So here I have a terminal window. Let me make the font a little bit bigger. And I have a folder here that's called Hello Functions Mac. And it's empty, as you can see. So let me run func init. Actually, let me run func. Look at that. Look at that. This is the Functions CLI running on a Mac. Awesome. So I've done func init. I'll do func new. All the same commands that we have available on the Windows CLI are here now, but there are some bugs, as you can see. So let's say func new, language C#, and interesting. Oh, I know what it is. I changed my, so we have that up and down arrow thing that we're doing there is what's making it confused. So let's try that again. That code we already knew is a little bit fragile. So let's go to Hello Functions Mac, func new, let's say language C#, say func new help. We can actually just specify everything on the command line. So we can say language and template. So func new language C# template HTTP trigger. Here we go. Now let's list, and we have it in here. So let's go to code dot.
Yeah.
Oh, I named my function ls. I didn't realize it was a prompt. Let's rename this to HTTP trigger C#, which is a very unique name. And so here we see that we have our function JSON. We have, as you'd expect, this is a script version. We have our run.csx. We have IntelliSense errors because it's a CSX file. But you can also use a precompiled function, which I will show you very soon. So let's do func host start. which is going to run. Now, there's a problem where not all of our log output is being shown here. So it's not printing out the APIs or the functions that it found, but it did, in fact, load that function. So if we go to localhost 5000, we will see our beautiful startup page. There you go. I think if you were in person, you would applaud. So I'm going to just pause for applause there. Thank you. And we'll call our function here, HB trigger C#. Not working. You can tell it's real because so as you can see, the CLI has got a little bit of trouble. However, I am prepared. What I'm going to do instead is run the functions web host, which means that so the web host, you have to set your actual working directory. And that's actually what I did wrong. Sorry, so there are a little bit more config. The way the CLI is using the web host, which is basically what's hosting the HTTP functions, and you need to set it to the root of where your function is located, which I had already done, but since I closed my terminal session, I forgot to do that again. So if we run this again, we get 500, so not great. So we'll do something different. Let's do web host. This is going to run the functions web host directly. So I don't have the CLI commands, but basically it has all of the same behavior. And so you can see here, HB trigger C# is indeed available. Now let's reload this. Oh dear. Oh dear, this was working last night. Script compilation failed. So I get this error sometimes, and I don't know why.
You gotta change the file maybe?
Let's do something else. I know that Q triggers work. So let me do that.
HTTP went through lots of changes.
Yes, that's right. Because we had to get rid of the system web dependency. So that actually made things a lot trickier. Func new, let's do func new. Let's do Q trigger instead. And I already have a connection string for my functions Azure Web Job storage. So now if I just do web host, that should work. Okay, content root path, that's correct. It's this folder I'm in, application started, it found Q trigger C#. Let's cross our fingers here. So the connections, I'm in Storage Explorer, and let's take a look at the code to see what our queue is. It's my queue items. So let's go in here. Let's open up a queue, my queue items, and let's say functions on a Mac. And let's see here. The queue will take a couple seconds to start. As you know, we don't poll so frequently because we want to reduce storage costs. Yes, there we go. Functions on a Mac with a Q trigger running in Azure. But wait, there's more. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to attach to the running process, and I'm going to debug. So let's cross our fingers here collectively. .NET Core attach, and let's play here. We're going to attach to here. See, notice here I'm running the web host. Azure Web Job Script web host.dll. This is basically what the CLI wraps. The CLI basically just runs this directly, and it does it adds those extra commands for managing functions and that kind of thing. So I'm going to add a breakpoint. It says it's unverified, but it actually will hit. And I'm going to add a new message now with debugging. And let's take a look at our web host output. Let's go back to VS Code. We should see, oh, sorry.
I few seconds feels like a lifetime.
I
during a live
know.
demo.
I know, it really does. How do I open the output window? I forgot the keyboard shortcut for that. The terminal.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's probably like view out, like if you go to the view menu and go to output.
Here we go. Output, debug console. Okay. Come on. What's going on here? Oh my God. There we go. Finally. Yes, I need to add that setting to host JSON. Okay. So I'm going to do something more. Now I'm debugging. Let's change this value. I didn't put any exclamation points on purpose. Thank you, demo gods.
They're vicious but kind as well.
Exactly. Now we go to our output and look at this. And there we go. Oh, applause.
Wait. Let me get us on screen and there you go.
Thank you. Sorry for that issue with HTTP. I'm sure Fabio, when I get back to the office, will say, hey, Donna, I know what was going on.
It's already fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's run something a little bit more advanced. So you all know my wonderful Coder Cards demo, which Chris has written a lovely SPA for, a single page app, where you drop in a photo of yourself and then the Coder Cards runs and it gives you a beautiful card. Now, I did have to make one big change to it, which is I can't actually create a card. The problem is I'm using system drawing, and so which doesn't work on a Mac naturally. So what I'm going to have to do is find a mono port or some other library. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to output the card back, and I've changed the code so that I'm going to write out all this metadata about the person, the title, and the emotion to a blob and blob storage. So that way we can actually see that it's actually run and done something. It's just not as exciting as a card. So let's switch to a new terminal window here. Here we go. And I'm going to run the web host because that one works a lot better, as we've seen. So you can see I have 3 functions: generate card, request image processing. Request image processing is an HTTP trigger that adds a new queue message that will trigger generate card. And of course, we have our settings endpoint. And just a quick plug for my functions visualizer. If you wanted to see how all that works together, go to functions-visualizer.azurewebsites.net. So let's go to our Chrome window, our other Chrome window. So what I'm going to do here is, so you can see it's actually hitting this endpoint locally because now it says Coder Cards local. So let us add a file. I'm going to add an image of myself. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really angry in this photo. Look at this. So I'm angry. And let's go into Storage Explorer. Let's look at this output data blob, which has our data about it. And so this is the person, the title is PM, and the motion is angry. Okay, that's great. Let's do something more. Let's attach a debugger again. .NET Core attach to the web host. And again, it's showing this breakpoint is not is pending, but I think it's because it hasn't actually started running yet. So let's go back again and let's add another image. I think we have a photo here of Satya, and he has a neutral face, and we'll call him CEO. And if we go back to VS Code, fingers crossed, we should see that our image is going to get processed and our breakpoint will get hit.
This is why we only ever
the breakpoint didn't hit.
That's why we only ever show debugging with HTTP.
No, I actually got this working last night. Let me just try attaching one more time and make sure this is the right one. And let's see here in terminal. Looks like the right one. Okay. One more time. If this doesn't work, then I will make it work.
And the demo gods are cruel.
Indeed, they are. It could be that the breakpoint is not resolving correctly. And I think it might have just processed it.
It did.
All right. So the breakpoint didn't hit in this case, but you have seen it working before. Honestly, it worked for me last night. This one I didn't have any problems with.
And when we actually get something out there, we'll probably have worked out the last little bugs here.
Exactly.
This got working at 10:30 last night.
Exactly. So you can imagine that it's been a little bit hectic. But you did see debugging working with the Q trigger. We can switch back. We saw debugging working with the Q trigger. We saw an HTTP trigger in the form of this coder cards. In fact, I can show you if you go to that's how that local endpoint came up. And the way that the request image processing works is that it was an HTTP trigger. So we have HTTP working, which was not a small feat given our deep system web dependency. And now basically most of the CLI works. We just have to make a few tweaks here and there, figure out why logging isn't on. And Fabio will tell me that I did something wrong when I attached the debugger. I'm sure that was user error right there. So we're super excited about this. And before we move on, are there any questions?
They love you. You've explained it perfectly.
Oh, wow. You guys are awesome. Now, I know a lot of folks who are interested in watching this are in Europe, and for some reason they didn't want to stay up really late, or Australia, and they didn't want to stay up until 4 a.m. I don't understand why, but big shout out to you when you do watch this recording. So let's go back to the slides. We have one more thing to show you, which is an Interim Project, actually. You've probably seen an animated GIF of this on the Azure Functions Twitter account. So when you're using scripting, you often have errors and warnings, and it's very annoying to have to look through this big log file to figure out what went wrong. It would be much nicer if we had a structured log for you. In fact, could show you squiggles in the editor, and that's exactly what our intern Varshi did. So let me play this video. It had a little bit of setup, so she just made us a video showing us everything. She wanted to demo this, but she was in a meeting, and she's going
skydiving.
Oh, she's going skydiving.
It's not a meeting.
It's not a meeting.
Skydiving.
Oh, good for her. And she's much better at demoing this than we are. So, so this is her demo. So she changes the code. She's added a compile error, and it's in a dependent file. It's in the file that was loaded through #load. So it still works. And even notice the link click still worked. It went to another file. It changed the current file for her. And then
that's it.
That's it. So basically, everything is working really well with that. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to ship that, but it should be very soon, hopefully before the end of her internship.
Yeah, her internship's next week. So what we're hoping to do is actually go ahead and get all the PRs done, get it all integrated. It's really cool because that tab there, errors and warnings, she's done all the work to basically make that show from any kind of structured log that we send it. She's done the work to then get the structured log from the C# compiler output from Roslyn, but we can do that for any language theoretically that's going through the portal. So the hope is that we can do this for, larger things, even issues that aren't necessarily related to your code. If you have an issue in your function.json, we can potentially show you issues in that.
Exactly.
It's going to hopefully make it a lot easier to do development in the portal when you are, in the world where you want to use the portal. Well, we also continue to invest heavily, and of course, local tooling as well. So we can have the best of both worlds.
Right. It'll also make it easier. It's a structured log stream. So if we have host errors, we could expose those on the overview tab, for instance, rather than those pop-ups, so you can see a history of what's going on.
No more red bubbles.
Yes, that's the goal. That is the goal.
That's what we pitched her when she started.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions? Any questions? No. Our audience loves us, Chris. Either that or we advertise very poorly.
We it's probably that one.
It could be.
But that's the great thing about having it recorded, because now there's just no one to ask us any fun questions.
Yeah.
As far as following along, for anyone who would ask, how can I follow along with this work or something along those lines? It's all on GitHub as usual. On the Azure Web Jobs SDK script repo, which is the main runtime repo, there is a core branch, which has all of the changes that Fabio and some of the other great work that we didn't get to talk about is Matt Mason's work to make Node.js run in its own separate process, which also allows us to give different node versions dynamically, which is going to be sweet. No more being locked on 6.5.0.
Native modules.
Native modules will just work. As much as native modules ever just work.
As long as you have a Windows version of your native module.
Yeah, and then that's mostly solved. It's just annoying to have to actually install it.
And in the notes, we'll post a GitHub issue that you can follow. That's our top level issue that has all of these. And so you can see the status. Fabio has been posting updates. I think he posted a screenshot. If not, I will do so, and I will take credit for his work. Actually, he also worked on this errors tab along with Varshy. He did the APIs on the host. So basically, this is the Fabio show. We asked him to attend, and he said, no, if you have questions, you can ask me on IM. So
he's too busy working.
That's exactly what it is.
He's in the chat.
Oh, he's in the chat.
He's in the chat.
Hi,
I also
Fabio.
wanted you to know that the squiggles will work for F#.
Oh, the
Oh,
squiggles
nice. It
work
also
for
works for F#.
There we go. See, we are really we're useless without Fabio.
We are.
All right, so thank you for this great webcast, and we will have some more exciting stuff to show you next time.
Definitely reach out to us on Twitter about what you'd like to see.
Absolutely.
The goal of the show is not really necessarily to make like announcements. Like this is kind of an announcement, but we figured it's more of like internal dev work and giving you guys
It's
status
more of
on the
a
current cycle.
more of a demo of our work
ready.
in progress.
So what do you want to see? Some of the things that are going to be like really kind of going out for the next time might be like application insights. What is the final GA version?
Yes,
Insights working
absolutely,
like?
which folks love.
Those kinds of pieces. So definitely reach out to us and let us know what you'd like to see for next time.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much for tuning in or watching our webcast, our video. I can't talk. And thank you for being such a great community.
Have a good one.